You're a human being, you're the same as any other human being. You have to be treated equally.
If there is no equality, it's the breeding ground of discrimination. And if there is discrimination, it breeds conflicts.
We have to ensure that every human person is included in the Constitution, and some minorities are not. And for me, law is the most important tool that a human person can have access to be able to have his right respected.
In a society, conflicts are inevitable. So in essence, law is a process that contributes to justice.
I believe that the protection before the law means that nobody is higher than the law, not even a parliamentarian.
If we are not providing equality within the law that we make, that means we have not actually understood the concept of equality. Because when we talk about law, it's like protection.
There's a limited access to people's knowledge of the law and how the law can be used to protect them. But instead, the law has been portrayed as something that is used to punish people and not empower people.
The law needs to serve us, not the other way around. The law needs to not hold us back, but rather enable us to go further and attain that self-realization and actualization that we're all assured.
I think it is very, very important to really try to reform laws that put oppression.
For example, a transgender in Mauritian law is not able to get an identity card that reflects his self-identified gender.
So it is very important that at the end of the day, as much as we are saying there's law, is that law discriminatory? Because there can be a law, but it doesn't cater specifically the needs of women and children. Let us look at specific groups that are always at the disadvantage, or that doesn't really have a voice because of the patriarchal societies that we have, because of the already existing cultural norms that we have on the ground.
My colleagues can come in the morning and they can talk about issues with their husbands or whatever. I cannot. That's such a simple thing. It's a part of my life, my existence that is not being recognized.
We have a sodomy law that we inherited at independence. It's an archaic colonial law. We also have a Domestic Violence Act that specifically excludes same-sex couples. In 1999, I received my diagnosis with HIV. And I was on top of me identifying as being a gay man. I was wedged between two forms of discrimination. I had to learn what was in the Constitution of the Republic of Namibia, what were my rights. So it really touches on that basic fact. Am I equal to another Namibian?
Countries who have constitutions who are protecting the citizens and who are supposed to have equal rights for all are having legislation that violates their constitutional provisions. And that says a lot about the importance of changing these legislations to create enabling environments.
When somebody is discriminated, cannot be an active participant in the development of their own society.
The work of the CSOs and activists really begins in asking the questions, narrating the experiences of the people that are affected, but it does not have to go beyond putting all of that together to now ensuring implementation, because that is a responsibility that our states and governments need to uphold.
And the role of civil society is to give the other perspective, to be the sort of a watchdog.
I've been very much involved in the process when Seychelles was in the process of decriminalizing the sodomy law. Myself and a few others accompanied them throughout the public consultations that were happening on the different islands, because we knew they looked upon us to be able to explain to others our lived reality, because they had no clue.
I realized that it was our role to educate people, to give this power for the citizens to go and stand if there's injustice in our law.
It's not a question of pleasing the government. Government's gonna come and go, but the state is there. So what do we need to do to change laws, to bring about, you know, that kind of equality and a better way of living for people?
It's our role to ensure we hold government accountable for good governance. Usually when people do legislative reform, they go immediately to government for change. And what we did is first do grassroots workshops for people to understand what is gender, what is this, why is it important to have a policy, and how does that influence our daily lives?
The role that civil society and individual activists play, I would say it is really to demonstrate the effect of the laws. We are empowered, we can change. And sometimes the conversation will take 10 years, and sometimes it might take 2. But it definitely needs someone committed enough to the cause to see the process through.
I feel like the CSOs are more like pirates. If the government is not doing anything, nobody else is going to push them. They are the ones with more capabilities to make things happen.
What we really need is the technical assistance around litigation. What we need is technical assistance around how to navigate the parliamentary system to be more effective. What would be important is also cross-learning.
We need funding for core functions, that is to say human resources. We also need funding for things like safety and security, because oftentimes you find our work really does genuinely put us at risk.
I think what we lack also is the structure of collaboration. So it's very ad hoc. It happens when we have something. But we always need to have external factor to bring us together. I think it's important that we find this synergy to come together, even though we have slightly different agendas.
If we fail now, I don't think that the next generation will be able to stand up. Let our ego aside, take leadership of values, and let's go straight on this.
I think the law is important because it, I could say it saves lives.